investigative efforts at the time, the suspect was unidentified. As the case eventually went cold, leaving the family and community longing for answers and closure. In 2023, detectives from our cold case unit reopened the investigation utilizing new leads and advanced in forensic technology. Their tireless work identification of a potential suspect. The state attorney's office reviewed the findings and determined there was sufficient evidence to pursue murder charges. On January 30th, 2025, Willie Rodgers was indicted by a grand jury on charges of murder. We extend our deepest gratitude to the state attorney and her team for the unwavering support and dedication throughout this process. We also commend the relentless efforts of our cold case detectives whose commitment to justice made this breakthrough possible. At this time, I'd like to bring up the cold case detective, Detective McAfee, to come up. Some more additional details about the case and then what led him to the findings of this particular incident, this who committed this horrendous murder in our city. Now, I don't want to get into the details of it because we still have to go to trial in this case. But I also have my city manager here as well. I had to give the city manager because he allowed us to proceed and allow budget to be spent to pursue these cases. So the city manager for investigative lead. So I always want to thank the man who write the checks and give us the permission to think outside the box a little bit. So thank you, city manager, Mr. Evans. At this time, I'd like Mr. John MacBeigh to come up and talk about some other leads.
Good afternoon. My name is John MacBeigh, M-A-C-B-E-I-G-H. I'm the cold case investigator for Riviera Beach Police Department. Again, Chief and his organization for allowing me to join this department and work these type of cases, which I think that the city and the community wants justice. It's been too long, 30 years. We have Mrs. Mortimer's granddaughter here today. I want to thank them for coming. I want to thank them for their patience. 30 years is a long time. But I feel very successful that we've identified who did this. Chief stated, thanks again to the town manager, providing the funds, because this isn't cheap. DNA testing is very expensive. We also did get a grant in this case from an organization called Seasons of Justice, who helped us out by providing funds for additional testing that we needed to eventually get the indictment. Mr. Rodgers right now is currently serving a sentence in on another unrelated case. At this point, the judicial process starts, and the state attorney's office will move forward with their investigation. So if you have any questions. It appears the motive was probably some type of burglary or robbery, due to the fact that Mr. Rodgers lived in the neighborhood, and we know that the murder had occurred inside the house, and we suspect that it was probably some type of burglary or robbery, maybe that went bad. So we had samples from before back then on people in the neighborhood, and Mr. Rodgers was one of them. So we had his blood sample from back then. We then went through and began looking at items of evidence inside the crime scene that possibly were not tested or needed to be retested. And we sent those off to Bodie Technologies up in Lorton, Virginia to do the testing. And that's when we came back with a identification of Mr. Rodgers. No, so we didn't have his DNA. We basically had a blood vial because remember, 1995, DNA was brand new. So they weren't necessarily doing mouth swabs because they didn't know what that meant. So a lot of these type of cases, and especially in sexual battery cases and things like that, the only thing the labs could basically do was do blood type testing. So back then, they were doing a lot of blood draws where they were going to test, the blood draw, the AB, whatever it was, against anything that they would have at a scene. So when they went back through, the detectives interviewing people, they were asking for permission to take these blood draws, and Mr. Rodgers is the one that provided that. Yes. Yeah. He was indicted. He's in custody, so technically it's an indictment, and I guess you want to call it an arrest. But anything else? Yeah. No, I retired from the FBI in 2018. I was there for 23 years, and prior to that, I was a Jupiter police officer for 7. So I basically have a private investigation business, and in 2022, I was asked to come aboard to start working these type of cases, to go back, and look at with some new eyes and the new technology and things that we can possibly do to solve these. And it's something that I enjoy doing. Again, it's trying to find out who did these things, because clearly, there's too many murders in this town that just went cold for years. And you always had the problem of witnesses, and nobody wanted to cooperate. And hoping now that people seeing this, will come forward. They don't have to worry about retaliation or anything to them. If they come forward and provide information from these older cases, because it's imperative, because you need the witnesses. You're starting to get cases 30 years old, you're going to start losing witnesses because people are dying off. We were fortunate in this case that, everybody's still around, basically. So, the hope and belief is that we can continue to do this. We had the press conference last year on the 2014 case that we solved. And back then I said, we'll be back, and we're back here, and I anticipate being here again. Nothing independently, but I think you look, we're 75 years old at the time, and she didn't need to go like this. Everybody in the neighborhood had nothing but good things to say about her. She helped the people in the neighborhood, and for someone in her neighborhood to do this to her is just, it's horrible. So basically I came in to do, quote unquote, the cold. We're still doing, what's really the definition of cold? Is it last year or what, So we basically started from the very first case that they had as a homicide in 1955, and we've worked forward. So there's a lot there. I'm not going to give you a number, but there's plenty of work. Going around the neighborhood and talking to people and seeing anything, or witnesses, neighbors. Did you hear see anything? He did for 30 years. Yes, he did. Well, he got away with it for 30 years. Not now. They're joyful, very joyful. And I know when I first called and told them about it, that was even being looked at. It's something that, you see the victims, and you read about them and in the reports and things like that, but it's one-dimensional. And then until you talk to them and hear the emotion on their voices, are about that their cases are looked at, and they're going back and trying to make justice for these people. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to get the city manager opportunity to say a few words, as well as the family, if they choose to. You guys know. But I want everyone to know in this community that as long as we have the resources and the means to follow up cases, we will continue to follow up those cases and those leads in this agency. We revamped how we have done things internally, and we're going to aggressively seek justice for those individuals who was victimized going back 30, 40, 50 years. So I want the community to really trust and believe in us that we in this community. I want to let the city manager turn over to him, let him say a few words.
Thank you, Chief, and name is Jonathan Evans, City Manager. Certainly, this is a great day for the family. It provides some closure. There's still more steps in the process, but I want you to know that there's no price that we would not pay to pursue justice for any family, whether it was 1955, 1995, and 2020. We're going to make sure that if you committed an act of violence or an act of crime in our community, we end of the earth find you and make sure this is served. This family and other families have seen situations where moments, memories, important birth anniversaries have been taken away because of senseless acts of violence and crime. And to the family, I apologize for the suffering that you went through, and I can imagine that when you did get that call, it showed you that somebody still cared, because every anniversary, every moment, every day that your family member had, you lived that terror. And I will tell you, as an organization, we will stand behind you. In that courtroom, we will make sure that justice is served. And to those folks that are in the law enforcement community, our officers, state attorneys, law enforcement professionals, thank you for your commitment to be the sheepdogs there to help us track the wolves down. Because if we don't, and terrorize our community indiscriminately. Riviera Beach Police Department under Chief Coleman and his command staff will do whatever is necessary, and there is no cost too much that we will not pursue those that have committed acts of violence and acts of crimes. So if you're good, think you're going to get away with doing something in our community, we may not get you today, but you better believe it 30 years from now, me, but it'll be another city manager saying, we're coming. And so to the family, God bless you and God keep you, and we're here and we're always thinking about you, and I will let you know that if there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. As you go through this emotional process, you're not in this alone. And so I know it's a lot, but I want you to know that every time the chief brings me something as it relates to this unit or what we need to do, he doesn't have to tell me. There's a family out there that wants answers, and you deserve answers, and the public deserves answers. And we'll make sure we do everything to his leadership. And to the state attorney's office, thank you so much for your commitment to making our community a safer community and our county a safer county. Thank you.
We don't want to get into the evidence. The investigation is still ongoing, so we don't want to get into the particulars of that. I apologize. Any questions before we conclude? Thanks, everyone, for coming out.